Welcome to another episode of Meal Prep Monday. I'm your host, Allison Schaaf, and today I'm talking about the two go-to pans that I use at my house, and more importantly, how I clean them. Before diving in, a quick reminder that if you want to try out our time-saving meal prep meal plans, you can go to prepdish.com/MPM, that's short for Meal Prep Monday, and try us out for 2 weeks for free. This is also linked in the show notes. Okay, so let's talk about cooking pans. So I have really two types of pans that I use in my house. And when I say two types, I actually just have literally two go-to kind of large saute. Some people call them skillets, but I call them saute pans, but really kind of large ones that I cook. Probably 90% of our stovetop meals are made in one of these two pans. So the two pans that I use are stainless steel and cast iron. I'll go into depth kind of on both of those and how I clean them and all of that. But before I do that, I want to touch on the ones that I don't use. And that's anything that is non-stick. And this includes I think Green Pans is a brand, but any non-stick pan that claims to be, it doesn't have Teflon or it doesn't have this. All of those nonstick pans will still have some sort of chemical that makes them non-stick. So it's sort of like we've talked about plastics in the past when we talk about containers. The plastic still leaches chemicals. Even if they don't have BPA, there's other chemicals in there that are like hormone disruptors. So the non-stick pans still have other chemicals in there that make them non-stick, even if it's not Teflon. And maybe it doesn't have like the complete correlation that Teflon does, but I still don't think that nonstick pans are a good idea for health reasons. And that would include something like a green pan. Because the other thing too is, maybe these things are fine, but as soon as they start to chip, that's when you have to be concerned. If they're chipping, that means that material is getting into your food. If it's getting into your food, you're ingesting it. If it's getting into your food, your kids are ingesting it. And I don't like the idea of those materials being ingested and eating that, right? And I've had those pans in the past, and I feel like really they only lasted a year or two anyway for me, and then they would kind of start chipping or degrading and not working as well. But for the past, I think both of the pans that I currently use, I've had since I got married. One of them, I think I bought the year, it wasn't a wedding gift. I think we actually bought it right after we got married. One of them, my husband might have had. We've had them I've had both of them over 5 years. I know that much for sure. And they're both in basically just as good condition as they were when we got them. So, cast iron pans should be able to last hundreds of years, literally. So the two pans that I use, let's start with stainless steel. So I have a large stainless steel. And when you buy the pans, you want to look at the material and see if it's fully there's kind of different levels you can have. I haven't gone through when I bought them. I did research the difference. And the one I have I think it's Calphalon pan. And I know there are some other ones I want to say Williams-Sonoma has a very similar one that is a little less expensive, but it's still, stainless steel. And it's not I don't know if it's by the brand Calphalon but you might want to look, if you're looking for kind of something a little more cost effective, that is still stainless steel, then I would go with that. I do think some of them have aluminum in it, but you want to make sure that it's not an aluminum coating or anything like that. You want as much of it as possible to be the stainless steel, especially the part that's coming into contact with your food. So that is why I have just a large pan. So some keys there is I always either use oil or water to make sure that the food doesn't stick. So if I'm going to be cooking something that might stick on the bottom, usually I put oil, but sometimes I'll put, depending on what the item is, you can also put some water in the bottom just to make sure the food doesn't stick and get burnt. And either way, when I talk now about how to clean it, even if things stick. So if I make eggs in there, I found that actually when we have really high quality bacon, we save the fat. And I find that the bacon fat like actually does the best job of preventing sticking when you're making eggs, is just putting a little bacon fat on the bottom. So you can make eggs and have them not stick. That being said, I will make eggs 9 times out of 10, they don't stick, but then sometimes I end up with just a bunch of like stuck eggs on the pan. So if that happens, here's the key to making it come clean. So boil water. I have like a hot water kettle by my stovetop. I use it for tea, but I also use it for this purpose. Although hopefully someday when I redo my kitchen, I actually want to have just like hot water that comes out of like boiling water, tap water. So if you have that, even better. But get really like boiling hot water and pour it in your pan, put the lid on. So putting the lid on is key. And so that's why like when you buy this pan, you need to make sure that it has like a fitting lid that goes on top. So you put that lid on top and it helps to like kind of steam and boil, like soak it all up. And then I let it sit there. So you do that and then you let it sit and soak. What I usually do is I do that immediately after I finish cooking. I do the hot water thing. And then when I sit down to eat, I let it soak. And then by the time I'm done eating, I just wipe it clean and it comes clean, like super easy, right? Like those ads you used to see with like the dish soap and like one person would be scrubbing, like they're using the other brand and they're scrubbing. And then the one brand, it just like wipes clean with a paper towel. I feel like what they did is they put boiling water and they didn't in the other, because the one that wipes clean probably just used boiling water. Like I don't use soap even, like I just use the boiling water. So that is the key. I don't think it matters what soap brand you use. It's like using the hot boiling water and letting it soak and then it just wipes clean. So that's how I handle that. I do use like I don't know if it's like a soft bristle brush, but more of just like a regular sponge or like dish brush for this. And just wipe it clean. That works easy. So like, that's really, to me, that's the key. If you've had stainless steel pans in the past and you're like, oh, but they make such a mess and like stuff gets cooked on it, over time you can figure out a way, you figure out how to like keep the temperature a little bit lower, like, and not do it too hot. So like things don't stick, but when they do stick, just do the hot water thing. And you should be good to go. And then the second pan that I use is a cast iron pan. And this one is also large. So both of these are like very large in size. I do have a few smaller stainless steel pans that I will use on occasion, but for the most part, like most of our cooking is a larger quantity. So these are bigger sizes. So I have a cast iron pan that I use as well. This one, once you've used it for a while, the care and upkeep really is not that tricky. In the beginning, it does take a little getting used to. Making sure it's well oiled is one of the keys. So just making sure you always have some sort of oil in there. Sometimes I do add salt, that you season it and do all of that. So sometimes I'll add the salt and all that. But I find like as I use it with oil or bacon grease or whatever kind of fat I'm using, and the food, and I've seasoned the food, all that. So there's not all of this like extra care that goes into it all of the time. It's just kind of like over time, I just kind of do it regularly and the upkeep is easy. So, oil it well. When I'm done, I will, depending on what it looks like after, I will sometimes do the hot water thing. And I had to buy a separate lid. I say I did. My husband did. If you listen to a few episodes, he's kind of more the one that likes to have a thing for everything, every possible issue you have. He wants to have a specific gadget that like fixes that. So he got a lid. This was a great purchase on his end, though, to give him some credit. So he got like a lid that fits on our cast iron pan. So it is nice to have that. And if you have a cast iron that doesn't have a lid, you can buy lids on their own to fit over top. And so if I need to, I will use the hot water trick. Now with the cast iron, you don't want to use soap. With the stainless steel, you can use soap. With the cast iron, you actually don't want to use soap ever. So it's just the hot water. Sometimes you can just take a paper towel and wipe it down. I know that's most of the time what you should be able to do. I feel like for us, we do have to use the hot water thing more often because, I don't know, things get stuck or something. But the thing that we'll use to scrub, and we've played around with a few different things. We had like a really tough, more like the brush. It wasn't like a regular dish brush, but it was more like the brush itself was more wiry. And this was, I think, specifically for a cast iron pan, and that worked really well. But then most recently we've bought like kind of this, like, I think it's literally a sponge that's made from stainless steel. And it's worked really well. And it has like a silicone inner part. I'm pretty sure this is also specifically to scrub down a cast iron. Like, you wouldn't want to use it on your stainless steel pans. You would only want to use it on your cast iron pan because it's really, and I'll try and find the one we've used and link that in the show notes. Again, my husband's the one that found it though, so who knows where he found it, but maybe it's on Amazon. So I'll look that up and see if I can find that. But having kind of the right scrubber for the cast iron helps as well. So that way, if you do have to get in there and scrub, you have something that you can use. The bonus to the cast iron is that there is some iron that kind of leaches out into the food, which can be a positive thing, especially if you or your kids ever run a little bit on the deficient side when it comes to iron. So this can actually be a source of iron in your diet. And gosh, I'm trying to think if there's anything else to add. So those are the two pans that I use, the stainless steel and cast iron. I do not, for a while I maybe did, but right now I don't have any nonstick pans. So I have the two main cast iron and the stainless steel. And then I have various sizes of a few other stainless steel. Well, I've got pots, these are more pans, but I've got pots that are all stainless steel. I've got a few smaller saute pans that I use as backup that are the stainless steel. But these two main ones are really the majority of our cooking. And then as a bonus, I just wanted to mention that for our baking sheets, I have found stainless steel as well. And I've gotten away from using nonstick baking sheets, which in the past I was kind of nervous to do. And I've realized since having these that I actually don't miss the nonstick. And I will sometimes use parchment when I'm baking something to kind of help it be nonstick if I need to. But I actually find that the stainless steel long-term is better. Like, nonstick baking sheets work great in the beginning, and then they kind of deteriorate and they don't work that well, whereas stainless steel maybe doesn't work as good as a nonstick in the beginning, but like over time, it still works the same now as it did the day I bought it. So because it doesn't have like that coating that's chipping away. It's just like, it's all one kind of layer of the same thing. So there's nothing like deteriorating over time. So I'll try and find some links to those too, because those stainless steel baking sheets, I guess now that's kind of like 3 go-to pans. Maybe we can change that in the title, but that would be definitely something I would recommend as well, is stainless steel baking sheets. Those are something that I've used now for, gosh, when did I get those? It's been over 2 years probably. And I really enjoyed those. And it's allowed me to get completely away from the nonstick. So those are my go-to pans. And as a compliment to the pans, definitely recommend having it in a way to easily get some hot boiling water to pour on them as well. That's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you would like to try 2 weeks of Prep Dish meal plans for free, you can just go to prepdish.com/MPM, that's short for Meal Prep Monday, and try out our time-saving meal plans. We have low-carb keto options, gluten-free, paleo. We also have some super fast plans that allow you to spend only 1 hour on meal prep, and you have 5 dinners ready to go for the week. So if you're looking for really quick, healthy, tasty meals to feed your family all week long, definitely try out our super fast plans. These plans are amazing. Usually most weeks, these are the plans I'm using in my house to feed my family. And it definitely makes things to where I'm not even worried about meals. I just know it's taken care of with my Prep Dish meal plans. That's all I have for this week. I will be back again next Monday.